how did you find your experience with patients? Was there something that stood out, treating someone that really made you, really affected you?
I think when I even think about it, it brings me to tears. I think we all did, but I still remember there was a couple of patients, and I will never forget this one boy, 15-year-old, who presented with the largest facial swelling I've ever seen. He extended not only to the areas of his face, not only to his neck, but also to his head, and he could only open his mouth by about this much.
Yeah.
You and I have worked in oral and maxillofacial departments in A&E. We've seen a lot of facial swellings due to dental infections, but this was something else. And he'd been suffering for this for 3 to 4 weeks, and it was just heartbreaking, just absolutely heartbreaking. And that will stay with me. That will stay with me, but it will stay with me in a way to always motivate me. When you're in a place like Sierra Leone and you're exhausted, you're working around the clock, it's hot, you can't think about yourself. And the moment you do think about yourself, you just look out and you see the queues of people waiting to see you, and you realize this is nothing in comparison to what they're going.
I mean, all the things that we complain about and we get upset over
means nothing.
Yeah,
it absolutely means nothing. And so, but there's a joy to it, right? Because at the end of the day, I still remember this day, and you said, let's just take 30 seconds. And you took us out of the room, and there's this beautiful spot in the hospital and lovely archway where you just can catch the sun setting. And at that moment, I still remember Rushika, yourself, and I, we stood there just for those 30 seconds it must have been, and just took that sight in, and it energized us.
Yeah.
And then we started, and then we carried on.
Yeah.
It was just, that whole experience, it will definitely stay with me. But like I said, it's patients like that who show so much resilience. Imagine going through that yourself, not being able to eat, not knowing what the next day will be like. If you can breathe, swallow, eat. These dental infections, and I think the perspective sometimes in the UK anyway, from my experience, and I've heard it before, it's just a tooth. It's not just a tooth. When you have an infection on your tooth, it can compromise your airway, and it can be life-threatening. And this is the condition of this boy.